Welcome to VISTA Table Talks. I'm Kim Chin, the Assistant National Director of the Up2Us Sports VISTA program. We're back again this year with the VISTA Table Talk Summer Series, and we are ready to go with our second episode where we are joined by Summer VISTAs, Meg Wilson from Girls on the Run, New York City, and Andrea Jimenez from Students Run LA to discuss their passion for running, what got them involved, and how their organizations are providing an entry point for running to youth. Leading today's conversation is Up2Us Sports Summer Vista Jensen Wolfe, a collegiate runner herself. Jensen, please feel free to take it away.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you guys for being here and taking the time to speak with me today. I'm gonna give you guys a quick couple seconds to introduce yourself. So Meg, if you want, you can go first.
Hi, my name's Meg. I'm a Summer Vista at Girls on the Run, New York City. I'm also a graduate student right now in public health, and I've also been a lifelong runner.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Jimenez. I am currently the Summer Vista at Students Run LA. I've been running since, well, all my life basically, and Students Run LA is what basically got me into running more. And yeah, I'm currently at CSUN and studying for my bachelor's in psychology, and I'm looking forward to running more races in the future.
Awesome. So you guys have both expressed with me that you have experience running marathons and other races. So how about Andrea, you can go first. Just tell us a little bit about your experience with running, just a little bit more, and marathons, like what marathons have you run and how many?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved running. Before I started running, I started running just for fun, but then I remember in high school, I saw in my school's newspaper that they were promoting the program Students Run LA, and I remember them saying, "Oh, do you want free shoes?" And I was like, "Yes, I need running shoes." So I signed up, not really knowing what I was getting myself into, and well, basically that program is where I'm right now the Vista for. And they train you to run the LA Marathon, which takes place in March. So the program runs through the school year, and you start in August with the 5K, and each month you run a race that's higher distance. So a 5K, and the next month 10K, 15K, a half marathon. And honestly, it was hard at first. I remember my first 5K, I was like, no, I'm not gonna continue with the program. But once I crossed the finish line, I was like, wow, I can't wait into the next run. And yeah, I made it to my marathon. The first marathon I ran was in 2019, the LA Marathon, and it wasn't easy, honestly. I remember having a mental breakdown around mile 20, but I remember everything, all my training, and I was like, no, I have to finish it. And then once I crossed that finish line, I was like, okay, I'm ready for next year. And I've ran 4 marathons so far, currently training for my 5th marathon in March.
Awesome. And were all the marathons you've done, are they all the LA Marathon, or have you done other ones?
Yeah, they're all the LA marathons. Just keeping it there as of now.
Gotcha. And Meg, how about you?
Yeah, so I started running at a really young age. I was lucky my school had an elementary school running program. So I started that because I had too much energy and needed something to do with my energy and time. And then as I went through middle school, I realized that I really loved distance running. And I was fortunate enough to have a family friend that ran a long distance running club in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I grew up. And because we knew the family, they had us sign some forms to allow a kid to run in the group, and I was able to run with them. And so that's when I started upping my distance, and it was all just for fun in middle school and high school. And then in college, I really was missing having organized sports and organized running. So I was always loved distance running. I've always wanted to run a marathon. That was always the goal, but I'd always sort of waited. So I didn't, start running marathon distance too early. And so my freshman year of college, I decided that I'd run the Athens, Ohio Marathon. So I trained pretty much all by myself in my college town. And then this was in the spring of 2018 that I ran my first marathon. And yeah, it was challenging. Even though training was pretty like smooth sailing, yeah, about mile 20 was pretty rough, and my like back gave out, and I was like, oh no, I don't know how I can do this. And I was like, I felt so fine on all my training runs, like what's going on? But luckily I was able to get some Gatorade and chill for a second and finish. And then I knew I wanted to run another marathon, because at least in my experience, while you're running it, you're like, how could I ever do this again? This is crazy. And then the minute you finish the finish line, you're like, okay, cool, I'll sign up for another one. So I signed up for the Columbus Marathon, because the Athens Marathon was really tiny and small. So there wasn't a lot of like crowds cheering or anything. You're basically in no man's land the whole time. Columbus Marathon I knew would be busier, and I'd have more like moral support throughout. So then the next year, I believe it was the next year, I ran the Columbus Marathon, and it was a lot more smooth sailing than the first one. I felt like I've learned a little bit more about myself and about training each time. So I've run 2 marathons. I had intended to keep running more, and unfortunately had 2 stress fractures in a year. So, and then COVID hit. So a little bit challenging with marathon, but I'm hoping at some point while I'm living in New York to run the New York City marathon. So that's the next thing I have my eyes set on.
That's awesome. I love that goal. And it's funny you talk about the difference between the Columbus Marathon and the Athens Marathon, because being from the same area, I have heard about both courses and heard that Athens is definitely a very challenging one with like nobody around. I have friends who have said that they've felt like they're in no man's land, and that Columbus was a lot faster and a lot nicer. So it is funny you mentioned that. And then it's also funny you guys talk about kind of like the finish line, and you're like, oh, I never want to do this again. But then you finish, you're like, oh, I want to do that again. That's awesome. Because from my experience, I've never run a marathon. That's the goal after college, is to hopefully do it. But right now I'm just going to stick with the 5K and 10K. That's where I'm at. But it's funny because as a freshman in college, you're thinking like, oh, I don't want to do the 10K multiple times. But when I finished my first 10K, the first thought was, I can't wait to do that again in a few weeks, because I got to do it again later. So it is really cool that you guys talk about that. And then you also both mentioned kind of how it is challenging mentally. So we'll just kind of go over to that. It is long distance running. It's very challenging mentally. It can be really tough. Training, racing. You guys have both been running for a very long time, so you know that. I know that. So have you ever had a moment where you've just kind of had to give yourself positive self-talk, just telling yourself you can do it or anything? Meg, you can go first.
Yeah, certainly. I think distance running for me, I've always really enjoyed, because I'm not very competitive with other people, but I tend to be pretty competitive with myself. So running I found to be a healthy way to experience that and nurture that. But certainly, I mean, when you're on a really long run and you're feeling tired, I try to keep in mind that I'm the one choosing to do this, and I'm doing it for myself and doing it for fun. So if I need to stop for a second and walk for a little bit, that's okay. And I'm the only one who cares or is, responsible for that. But I think I was really lucky in high school for my cross country coach. He really implemented positive mental attitude. He would tell that phrase to us constantly through every practice and everything, and it really stuck with me. So I think when it comes to distance running, whether it's training or the actual marathon, the first thing I always try to do is come into it with a positive mental attitude, and also keep realistic expectations for what that run is going to look like, because it's not really helpful for me to be like, oh, this is a 15-mile run, it'll be quick, I'll just, get this over with, because it's not going to be. And so if I go in with like realistic expectations, but also a positive mental attitude about it, I found that that's been really successful for me.
Yeah, definitely. Andrea, how about you?
I mean, yeah, I can definitely agree. Something my coach would tell me is that it's all mental. Like, it's more to run a marathon, it's more mental than physical strength. So when I really need it, I'm just like, when I can't feel like my feet or I feel very fatigued, I'm like, no, I can do it. I just need to have a positive mindset, a positive attitude. And that's what really helps drive me, especially mile 20. Like when I'm doing like the longer distance races, like 18 milers, like the marathon, I'm like I almost feel like I'm gonna faint, but I'm like, no, it's okay. I just need to get some like Gatorade, some oranges or something, and that's what helps me keep through. I just remind myself it's more mental than physical, and I just go to my happy place and keep on going.
Yeah, definitely. It is definitely feels more mental most of the time than me. I mean, I feel like I've had so many different coaches in my life and everything, and different like role models and people helping, and they always like definitely have great advice when it comes to the mental aspect of things. To me, it feels like it's like 70% mental and 30% physical. So a big thing this past year was my first year running in college, and I never really thought about giving myself positive like pep talks during my runs or my races or anything to get through it. And I actually got to use it today. I did mile repeats today, and I was struggling pretty hard, and it was pretty windy. And all I could think about this, like the entire workout, was just telling myself, like, I am mentally tough. I am mentally tough. So that's the big thing that I've done. And I've also tried writing on my arm or something. If I'm having a race and I've been struggling that week, I just write on my arm like a little message, like, I can do this, I'm tough, and stuff like that. And then also a big thing that I've decided like I like a lot is a confidence journal, or like a 10-minute toughness thing, or like just a toughness journal. We did it at school, where we would just like write down what we did well, what we can improve on, and like all these different things. And I think that's very helpful, just kind of reminding yourself like you are making this progress. And so yeah, it hurts, but like it's there, and that's like a reminder you can have whenever you're struggling. You're like, oh, I wrote this down, like that's fine. So I think that's definitely a big one. And then also, what are your guys' biggest takeaways from like this experience? Definitely, I'm sure it leaves an impact on your life. So Andrea, do you have anything?
I mean, definitely after running a marathon, I believe I can truly do anything with the right headspace. Like if I have a good mindset, a positive mindset, I definitely believe I can challenge myself and push myself. Even if I even if I think it's impossible, I know I'll get there. I mean, that's how it is. That's how running a marathon has left me with the growth mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And the same goes like with the training. Do you have any takeaways from like the training besides the racing?
For the training, I honestly believe that the training was the best part, because for me, I ran with my team, and like on race day, like you all go your own ways. There's so many people, you get lost, and I unfortunately did not have the privilege of running with my teammates the day of race day, because we all went our own ways. We have different paces and everything. But I feel like the training was so fun because I'd always run with my friends. We'd cheer each other on, and honestly, although running is a team, it's not a team sport. It felt like a team during training because we'd all motivate each other.
Yeah, definitely. Meg, how about you?
So I found with running, and especially when I'm in marathon training, I think the biggest takeaway is that it really tends to translate into the rest of my life, whether that be academics or friendships or that sort of thing. When I'm in marathon training, I feel like I'm really, on top of my schoolwork and my other work and keeping connections with my friends and family. It just kind of is like the right puzzle piece to help balance everything in my life. I think it's because I tend to be a person that likes to be go, 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 go. So when I have this experience of me setting goals for myself and seeing them being achieved and keeping a ritual with training, but while also enjoying it, it helps me do the same in other parts of my life too. So I think that's really, as much as I love running just for running, I think that's one of the aspects that makes me love it so much, is it really just like seeps into every other aspect of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I think I'm a little bit biased since I am a distance runner, but people do say that like distance runners tend to do very well in school and everything just because they're used to working hard. But I think that's definitely true. I think when I was like in elementary school, I didn't really care as much about like schoolwork or anything. And then I started running at a very young age. I started racing and running in sixth grade. And then as I got like later into middle school and into high school, I felt like I cared a lot more and I worked a lot harder in school. And I definitely think I have to kind of credit some of that to running because I learned how to work hard in many different aspects of my life. So yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And then you mentioned also just kind of enjoying it and everything. I mean, I think if you're not enjoying it, then it's not fun to do at all. I know that's a big struggle I have in the summer is I feel like I don't enjoy it as much. And I have to remind myself a lot, like, just have fun. Like if you're not running your fastest or your best right now, it's okay. Just have fun. Like you're doing it. Do you guys ever kind of have those moments too, where you just have to remind yourself to enjoy the process?
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think something that you just reminded me about as well is ever since the first time I started running, my mom always tells this story and it always embarrasses me, but it's like actually very accurate to what running means to me. Is when I was in like elementary school, I think, you know, I maybe like didn't do as well as I wanted to in a test or something. And then I went to I guess it wasn't cross country at the time, but like running club or whatever after school. And I came home and got in the car with my mom and I was like, yeah, so I was feeling pretty down because I didn't do as well I wanted to on this science test. But then I ran and I felt so much better. And now I know what I need to do to like do better the next time. And so I think that's part of the happiness that I get from running. And what I remind myself all the time too is that it really puts things in perspective to me, and it also helps with other things like anxiety and stress. It's important to my life for a lot of reasons, but really to kind of keep those, you know, under control as well too.
Yes, definitely. I like running in the morning. Well, in LA, it's currently really hot, but either way, I enjoy running in the morning. And when I don't go out for runs in the morning, I feel so sluggish. I feel so stressed out because, like, running, it helps clear my head. Like, sometimes I just go out on a run, a short run, or sometimes I like have my headphones and I blast music. And it really helps me overall with my mood throughout the day. And although like I'm like super tired, I feel lazy to wake up, you know, at 5 a.m. in the morning to go for a run. It's really helpful overall because I feel like I get a lot of things done throughout the day and just my energy is just so much better.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys kind of both mentioned using running as an outlet to feel better. Because it's kind of funny. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, actually, talking about different tips for helping with anxiety. And one of the things they mentioned was exercise. And this guy said that like he would go on walks with his wife or runs or whatever, and they'd only do like 3 miles. And she would act like, oh, that was really far. And he's like, oh, it felt like it was really quick. She's like, well, you actually get really into it. So that's why. And I don't know. I think it's really cool that some people like use exercise as that outlet. Sometimes people like me, kind of, I'm just calling myself out. Sometimes I let running stress me out because I do compete so much and I get into my head, but also like it is very good for you when it comes to those things. Like you just need to clear your head. You can go for a run. So yeah, definitely mentioning that is definitely a good point. It is very helpful. And then you guys talked about like running motivating you and stuff. Like what do you use as a motivation now? Is there anything you guys do?
That's a good question. I think kind of like I already said, my motivation now is that I know how much running brings like value to like my life and calmness and just like help in general with things. And also, so I moved to New York City about a year ago now. So, and before that I was in my college town in Granville, Ohio, which is beautiful. Like I think one of the most beautiful places to run. Like I'd run like all of these farms, and even though I was really excited to move to New York, I was like, I don't know about running in New York, like that's so different. But now I guess my motivation is like it's a way for me to see the city too, and it's been so much fun to use running as like an outlet to explore like other neighborhoods and places, and also is to meet other people, because like in my graduate school program there's like a whole group chat for runners, and like sometimes they'll meet up and that's a new way to meet people. So there's a lot of different like motivating factors for me running, but really it's all things that have just been like adding to my life and my experience living in a completely new place.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I love like my motivation is just meeting new people, exploring new places. And yeah, I mean, when I go out for runs, like sometimes we do like peace signs when other runners pass by, and it's just I love the running community. So like I feel like that's what motivates me to be more a part of it and more involved.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that too. The running community is fantastic. Meg, you would know there's the Columbus Running Company and Fleet Feet, all of those great places in Columbus. Obviously, I can't really speak for LA, but I'm sure there's definitely a lot there. But you talk about kind of making peace signs when you see other runners. That's something similar like what we did in high school. We'd go by and we would just like make sure we greet all of our teammates when we go by them, if we're running different directions, telling them good job and everything. But there definitely is a great opportunity in almost every area to go meet up with people and run. It's definitely really, really awesome. I mean, it's all over the country and everywhere. So definitely great. And I've made some of my biggest friends out of running. My best friends are literally all runners for the most part through high school and college. All my teammates are my friends. That's basically all the friends I have in college. But definitely the community is really, really great. So I would agree with that. And then, so you guys kind of talked a little bit about like your process and building up to that, but can you guys go into like a little bit more detail about what that training process was like for you?
Yeah, I can go first. So mine sort of started the beginning of my freshman year of college because I'd been familiar with distance running to a certain extent. I think the longest I had maybe run before college was 15 miles or something like that, but I'd run like 13, 10 like pretty regularly. But I got to college, and I think the first semester of college can be a difficult adjustment for many people. And even though I was lucky to find um, a lot of great friends that are still my friends now, I also like really needed that alone time to just kind of like process everything that was going on. And so I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to start adding my mileage up again because that's something that I know I really love. And that gives me like time by myself. So in the fall, I just started running on the bike path, and like each time I would, not each time, but every week I would like up my mileage a little bit. And like I said, I'm kind of competitive with myself. So I'd be like, oh, I would just like run super far out on the bike path. And then I'd be like, well, I guess I have to run back this time. And then once I decided I was going to run the marathon, I was like, okay, I should probably have some sort of like actual organized type of training here. So to be honest, I can't even really remember what training plan I used, but I think I looked up like an intermediate marathon training because I already was familiar and comfortable with some distance running. I didn't feel like I need like a beginner training plan, although those can be really fantastic, especially if you're becoming a runner, getting into distance running, and there's like one walk run programs and like stuff to that. That was great. So I just used like, I think it was like a 16-week training program, and I would always do my long runs on Saturday mornings. I would get up like way before all of my friends, run my long run, and then meet them at the diner for breakfast afterwards. So that was a nice little motivating thing for me, but it was pretty straightforward. I mean, as a college student or really working person, whatever, like your schedule is going to be so hectic. So it can be challenging to fit like a full marathon training schedule into your life. Like that's a lot and really challenging. So I just found ways to like fit my runs in. Like I would bring all of my running clothes to the biology building with me and like change there and run from there and stuff like that. So I just kind of snuck in my runs whenever I could. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward with like a 16-week standard marathon training. Because at that time I wasn't really thinking about time. I was really thinking about finishing. So I didn't really even have like a lot of speed workouts or anything in my program. Yeah.
Well, for me, because I was under like the SRLA program, so I think we started training around August or September. And after school, I'd go to training 3 times a week. And then once every 2 weeks, we'd focus on sprints. So we just like, I'm I'm a long distance runner. I suck at sprints. But we do sprints, and like looking back, those would really help with my time. And time was important. I think we had to do like, I think run a mile under 15 minutes, which wasn't a problem, but still like considering it was long distance and I haven't done like, 18 milers and 30Ks, like ever before. So I felt like that pressure that I needed to do good on the sprints and like be under 15 minutes a mile. But at the end, it wasn't a problem. But still, like I feel like that pressure kind of motivated me to like keep going to training because I don't want to be left behind. And so yeah, because each month we had like a race we had to complete. If you didn't complete it under 16 minutes a mile, because there was a flag man who had like who would pace like the 16-minute or 15-minute mile, and if like he was in front of you, like you weren't like qualified to run the next race, and each race qualified you to run the marathon at the end. So I felt like a lot of pressure, even though like he was far away from me. Like I felt a lot of pressure on the race days, and like during training, I like try to imagine him like behind me to like help run faster. And I remember at the beginning of the season, so around November, December, we trained mostly in the mornings, and because I mean the weather was just nicer, and it get dark really fast here in LA. So I feel like that the morning practices were hard because you had to wake up early, and I was a junior when I started training, and it was really stressful because we have the SATs, we have all the AP exams and like college admissions we have to decide kind of. So it was really stressful, but I feel like what really helped was running with my friends. My team is what motivated me to keep on training, and I feel like it made us closer because we had the shared experiences. We shared the same struggles. So I don't know how you could do it alone because I feel like it's a lot more mentally. It's a lot more pressure on you.
Yeah, definitely. And you like mentioned pressure quite a few times, and that's definitely a big thing that I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about enough when it comes to running. But sometimes there can be a lot of pressure there, whether it's coming from like outside, from like other people expecting you to do things, or you expecting yourself to do something. And sometimes that pressure can kind of become overwhelming. I know I've had experiences where like for example, our regional cross country meet this past cross country season, I had not had like a great season. I got a stress fracture and I was in a boot right before. And I was kind of putting my pressure on myself because they were letting me race anyway. And I wanted to do well because they were letting me run, even though I had a stress reaction and I was in a boot. So it's definitely there, a lot of pressure. And then you guys both mentioned kind of balancing like school and different things. And I know, Meg, you kind of talked a little bit more in detail about it, but do you guys have any like advice or tips about somebody who is kind of doing that marathon training while also balancing out school and work and everything? Meg, you could go first.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think again, I just viewed it as running was what was supporting my academics, which helped me because there were definitely some days where things just got ahead of me with school, and studying for my bio exam or chem exam was more important than my 3-mile run I had to do, and I had to just switch around my running for the week or miss a run because school came first and that was the priority. But what I also realized was that I was far less focused if I didn't go for my run. So sometimes then I also realized I was like, okay, even if, I go out and run a mile or run 2 miles or whatever, that's going to be better than me sitting here for 30 minutes, not able to focus. So I guess that's not necessarily advice, but I guess just knowing that it's okay if sometimes you have to miss a run because you have school or something like that, but also figuring out like how it helps you to, do well academically. Yeah.
I would say time management is very important. So just manage your time wisely. I'm the same. I use running as a way to de-stress myself when it comes to school. So like when I do something really bad on a test, I like use running to like collect my thoughts or just clear my head. I'm like, okay, I'll do better next time. And also when I'm like really stressed to study, sometimes, like you're bombarded and you feel like you're not learning anything. I just go out for a run to clear my head, and I come back refreshed and, ready to like study. And yeah, just I would say manage your time wisely and use running as an outlet to clear your head or to collect your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. And then both of you serve a host site that kind of is focused more on running. So are you guys able to speak a little bit about how that site uses sport and running as a vehicle for change?
Yeah, I can go first. So I'm working with Girls on the Run New York City. There's also Girls on the Run International, and there's councils in all different cities and all different states. But I'm working with New York City, which covers all 5 boroughs. So basically, the mission of Girls on the Run is to empower young girls, so upper elementary and middle school girls, with a running component. So running is obviously a huge part of our program because it's, in the name. But tied with the running is curriculum for each week, each day of practice that has social emotional learning components. I think they're implementing like social justice components, ways for girls to empower themselves, set goals for themselves. But a lot of that, the vehicle for a lot of that learning is running. So the girls have a 10-week program where they have coaches from the community or their schools, and then it culminates at the end with a 5K. This year we'll have our citywide 5K again. With COVID, schools just did their own individual, but these are lots and lots of girls from all 5 boroughs coming in and running a 5K together at the end of the year. So the goal, the idea really is that these girls are able to work towards a big goal while also setting smaller goals along the way and seeing themselves achieve that. So even though the goal of the organization goes beyond running is the vehicle for it, which I think is really cool and something that I didn't get as much in my, regular school cross country teams and that sort of thing. As much as I loved all that, I didn't have that additional component of empowerment and learning about myself and feeling comfortable sharing about myself and what's going on at home, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what we do at Girls on the Run.
Nice. So I'm currently the Summer Vista at Students Run LA, and Students Run LA is a program where middle school, 7th graders to 12th graders, they're at their schools or organizations, they are paired up with the teacher or mentors, and together they train to run the LA Marathon, but they have like races each month. And what I love about the program is that the coaches, they're not just like, telling you like, oh, run this amount of distance or do this. Like they're actually there training with you. And I think that's very encouraging because like, you're sharing the same struggles with your coach. Anyways, well, the program, it really helps low income students from LA. And the majority of the students are people of color. And I feel like it's such a great opportunity for the students because they get to, make goals. They learn discipline and like how to be responsible. And I think it's just great because at these races also that Students from LA host, they create opportunity for all like ethnic groups and people from like different backgrounds to come together. And training for a marathon is something very difficult. And by providing this goal, because Students Run LA provides the transportation, the shoes and the uniform, it really gives everyone an equal opportunity to be able to accomplish something. So yeah, that's basically what Students Run LA is. And it's just great. It completely changed my life and I'm so happy to be working with them this summer.
Yeah, and you said that like you've been involved with them from a very young age, but kind of what drove you or motivated you to get involved with them and serve them as a VISTA?
I mean, Students Run LA, it completely changed my life and I wanted to be more involved to start with as a way to say thank you. Because honestly, it completely just turned my life around. It made me who I am now. And I wanted to give back, be more involved with the community. I volunteered at some of the, I volunteer at some other organizations like for the LA Marathon and other mud runs. And I wanted to be more involved with the SRLA community. And when I found out about this opportunity, I was like, this is perfect. I can give back and as a way to say thank you for everything that SRLA offered me.
Yeah, and Meg, why did you choose to get involved with Girls on the Run?
Yeah, so there's a few reasons. One, I knew about Girls on the Run since I was a kid, because there is a council in Columbus and in Ohio. I also had friends who had been coaches, so I was familiar with it. And then, as I mentioned, I am a graduate student at the School of Public Health at Columbia right now, and part of our program is a practicum in the summer where we work with an organization. And I really wanted to be in New York City specifically, really getting to know the education system and the public school system in New York City, because that was something that I was really unfamiliar with, and it's totally different than Columbus, where I grew up. And also, I was passionate about running. I really want to work in women and girls' health and healthcare. And so when I was, sent an email about Girls on the Run by one of my professors, I was like, this is perfect. I'm really passionate about this mission. I'd be so excited to work with them. And I get to work with a pretty small staff, and they're all wonderful. And so I've just learned so much, and I'm excited even after my VISTA position is over. I'm still planning on volunteering with them and working with them. So yeah, it's been just a really great experience.
Yeah, that's really awesome from both of you. And then I guess we'll just kind of wrap it up with one more question. We'll start with Andrea. Do you have any advice for anybody who's looking to get into marathon running?
Yes, honestly, it's the journey what counts. The journey is wonderful, and once you get to the end, it's you're just like, wow, that's it. Well, it's an amazing feeling, but honestly, it's the journey that counts. Enjoy the journey, because that's where you learn all the lessons, and that's what really helps you like on your way to run a marathon.
I would completely second that. The other thing that I would say is, just as a piece of advice, is make sure you tell like your supporters and the people around you that you're working towards this big goal, because I think I tended to, maybe not tell as many people or be a little bit quieter about it, because, I didn't want those like expectations from others or that sort of thing, which is probably why I ended up training alone a lot of time. But in reality, once I did tell people, they didn't care how fast I was running it or whatever. They were just so excited to support me and cheer me. And I'm sure that all of your supporters would be the same way. So make sure to tell them, because the more support you have towards it, the better, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Running is definitely a very rewarding thing from experience. It's definitely been something I'm very grateful I got involved in, and I'm sure you guys are both very grateful too. So it's definitely a great way to exercise and to clear your mind. And it's great for so many different things. So I want to thank you guys again for taking your time to jump on here and talk with me. It's been really great, and hopefully it has been very helpful for some other people. So yeah, thank you.